How's it going everyone, Blueknight here and welcome back to the channel. So just over a month ago we got our first look at many different games coming to the PlayStation 5. Both launch titles like Spider-Man Miles Morales and some with unknown release dates like Ratchet & Clank Rift Apart. Well, ever since the PS5 showcase, there's been a rumor about a PS5-centric State of Play, or event, happening in August, which is next month, where many of us would assume is where we'll find out more info for the already announced games, like Ratchet & Clank or Spider-Man. Then more rumors started popping up, suggesting that Sony held back some of its announcements from the main PS5 showcase to show off after Xbox's not-so-great showcase, which leads to the most recent set of rumors that came up in the past week or so. One coming from the leaker Roberto Serrano over on Twitter, claiming to know the exact date of this PS5 State of Play, which is supposedly set to premiere August 6th. Now from what I heard, this guy was a reliable source for PlayStation related leaks and such, until he got the whole PS5 pre-order date wrong, and now it kind of makes me question his credibility. So take that with a grain of salt. While the other leaker relayed their info to Moore's Law is Dead's YouTube channel, and well, let me play the clip for you.
Now, as I said, this source had several bombshells, and some of them were upcoming exclusives. The first one he told me about was there would be a Fable 4 that would be an entire reboot of the franchise made by Playground Games, that he had seen it in person. It's real. And he wasn't sure if it would be revealed at the event, but as I said, it obviously was. And for those wondering why is it called Fable, not Fable 4, it's because they're entirely rebooting the franchise. This is a new game. This is not a remaster of the first one. Now, what he also told me is about two PlayStation exclusives. They are holding out so they can reveal them after Xbox to still have a wow factor, that they have more coming as well. The first one, and this is a bombshell I believe, is a new God of War. The sequel will be showed off supposedly in under a month. This is a well-guarded secret, and it's supposedly going to have, well, I'm just quoting him, jaw-dropping graphics that will approach photorealism. That they want to showcase this as, see, PlayStation brings you next-gen graphics. It's coming fall 2021. That's right, not this year. This isn't a launch game next to Spider-Man and Gran Turismo. No. But there is another launch game, supposedly, and this has been much rumored, that there is some other launch exclusive that Sony's holding out on revealing. An incredibly guarded secret. And unfortunately, I cannot tell you what it is. I can't. I was told that if I told you by one of these other sources that it would reveal too much. So here's what I'm going to say. It is a revival of a mainstay of PlayStation, one that used to be a bigger tentpole franchise, and Mark Cerny's working on it. And personally, for me, I could not be more excited.
Okay, so after watching the video myself, I'm thinking that the leaker who shared this info is actually credible. How credible, I'm not too sure. But as you heard at the start of that clip, a new Fable game was going to be announced, and sure enough, it happened at the Xbox Showcase event. But despite that, it's still a rumor, so take everything that I say about this particular rumor with a grain of salt, just in case it doesn't turn out to be true. Now let's focus on the primary part of this rumor aside from the part of a new God of War game, which we all know is basically happening. A revival of a mainstay of PlayStation, one that used to be a bigger tentpole franchise, and Mark Cerny's working on it. Okay, so what I'm getting from that sounds to me like it's gonna be Jak and Daxter, and the reason I say that is that this series was a very defining series on the PlayStation in its time. In fact, a lot of the time when people think of PlayStation, Jak and Daxter is usually one of the first franchises that come to mind when you utter the word PlayStation. It was and still is a very popular series. I mean, think about it, why would Sony bring the collection to PS4 and then go to the trouble to make limited physical editions for those said games? Not to mention the series' 20th anniversary is next year, so why would they bother releasing Jak and Daxter as a launch game for the PS5 this year? Well, the other hint that we got is that Mark Cerny is working on the game. Now, if we look at the list of PlayStation exclusive franchises that have been out of the picture for a while, and that Cerny has worked on, we'll find that he worked on Jak and Daxter up to the second game, Resistance also up to the second game, Killzone only the third game. He also worked on Ratchet & Clank, the first 3 games, and future Tools of Destruction. Ratchet & Clank hasn't been out of the picture, but I just wanted to bring that up. But out of those 3 franchises, Jak and Daxter is still the most popular of those 3. And before I forget, during the Road to PS5 stream, which Mark Cerny himself hosted, featured the map of Haven City from Jak 2 as an example of what any game could do with the PS5's SSD, if I'm not mistaken. And bringing the series back would further allow Sony to show off the PS5's hardware and what it's capable of, especially a remake of any one of the games from the original trilogy. Now, ain't it ironic that he brings up the last game he worked on from this series during that stream, and then this rumor pops up months later? I just find it very interesting, if it's even true. And one last thing that's included in that rumor is that whatever this series is, the game's apparently going to be a revival. What does that mean? Well, it either means that a previous series that Cerny has worked on in the past is being brought back, essentially from the dead, because it hasn't been around for a while. And that's either Jak and Daxter, Killzone, or Resistance. An example of this being Crash Bandicoot finally returning in 2017 with the Insane Trilogy, with some Skylanders appearances beforehand. But just what kind of revival do they mean? Do they mean the Crash kind of revival, wherein they start from the very beginning with what everyone liked and rework certain things, essentially being a remake, not a reimagining like Ratchet & Clank 2016, that's a completely different story? Or do they mean the Sly Cooper type of revival, wherein the series continues from where the last entry left off years beforehand? If it's Jak, that might work since we got the collection on the PS4, so everyone coming into the new game may already be caught up with the series because of that collection. I really don't know, but I'm not expecting Jak 4 to happen anytime soon, I'll say that right now. If anything, Jak and Daxter does actually come of this rumor next month, I would expect maybe a semi-reimagining of the first Jak and Daxter game. No, nothing like Ratchet & Clank, as longtime fans weren't exactly happy with certain things. I mean something that better fits the tone gap between the first and second games, but not straying too far from what made Jak and Daxter, well, Jak and Daxter. Speaking of which, Nicholas Cole, the artist behind the Spyro Reignited trilogy as well as Crash 4, made a sketch of Jak and Daxter, saying, "If the opportunity arose, this is where I'd start." And I gotta say, I like this style, as I think it captures the characters, especially Jak's appearances in both Jak 1 and 3. Now don't go thinking that this means Nicholas Cole is working on a new Jak and Daxter project, just don't. I mean, he did a sketch for Ratchet afterward. Does that mean he's working on Rift Apart? Likely not. Anyways guys, at the end of the day, it's just another rumor with some weight to it, and should be taken with a grain of salt. But if the next State of Play or PS5 event does actually happen in August, then that may lend some credibility to this rumor being true. But at the moment, I'm being cautious about it, especially after what happened the last time we heard something about Jak and Daxter. And if it does turn out to be true, just don't expect Jak and Daxter, and to keep expectations low. Until then, grains of salt. But what do you guys think about this? You think Jak and Daxter may be returning as this mystery launch exclusive for the PS5? Be sure to leave everything down in the comment section below, and also be sure to stay tuned to the channel for anything else Jak and Daxter if it even comes up. Once again, thank you all so much for watching and the support. I've been Blueknight, and I'll see you guys back here next time.